Why do you wear Christmas shirts every day of the year?
I don't know.
All right, little girl, back to your homework.
Back to my homework?
Hi, everybody. This video here is going to be about addressing some of the most common fallacies that people bring up when discussing working, living, or moving to Thailand. And it can be pretty frustrating when a lot of them are constantly debunked, but they just keep persisting. Starting with one of the most common ones, which is you can't get an office job in Thailand. It's against the law and they only hire locals. I don't know how to answer such a ridiculous statement when you're actually doing what they say you can't do. It doesn't take much for a company to be able to hire a foreigner due to their expertise in whether it's English skills, a specific niche that nobody else has here, or their specific experience working for a similar company back in their own country. It just doesn't make sense why it persists still. It is possible to get work here. It is much more common than people make it out to be. Thailand's not a good place to live long term. You get taken advantage of as a foreigner constantly, and Thais will never respect you. Look, anyone can be taken advantage of if they allow it. Foreigners love acting like they're the only ones on the receiving end of scams and cons in Thailand, but locals are regularly falling for scams too here. The standard rules apply. If it's too good to be true, it usually is bullshit. If it makes no sense why you're being offered it instead of others, it's usually bullshit. If it's an unbelievable limited time offer that requires action immediately, it's usually bullshit. Now, in regards to the respect, Thais choose who they respect similarly to how we choose who we respect. What a lot of foreigners seem to forget is that they come over here and they don't speak the language, they don't know the culture, and they don't understand the customs, but because they spend big comparatively to locals, they get lots of smiles and appreciation. They conflate with respect. I got this one the other day. I thought it was pretty interesting. You're not going to make any money living in Thailand unless you're a software engineer. Remote jobs are dead these days. It's a place for people who are already retired and pensioners, not young people who still have to work to live. The concept that you can only be a software engineer over here is absolutely ludicrous. So I know people that work in multiple different fields in the industry, such as logistics, supply chain, accounting, finance, IT, and strategic business operations is what I work in. Don't forget production planning. Don't forget consulting. Don't forget project management. So yeah, this concept that there's only one type of job over here for foreigners is absolutely ludicrous. This comment is actually quite good. It tries to go into detail about the concept that potentially you're taking advantage of people by living over here or misconstruing the benefits of living here as a foreigner compared to the locals. It definitely seems nice to be a Westerner who lives in Thailand, but if you ask the average Thai about living there, they would say that they'd much rather be a citizen in the West or in Japan. In regards to the idea that every single Thai person is trying to get out of the country, that is a huge fallacy. Just as an example, previously one of the girls in my department wished to move to Australia, and in doing so, I spoke to our Australian branch and asked if they would be able to hire her, which they did. But she's returned back to Thailand because Australia is too expensive. So my previous manager in Australia contacted me and said, do you have anybody else in Thailand that would consider moving to Australia? I've got 40 people in my department and not one of them said yes. Yeah, the concept of living overseas is excitable for young Thais, but it's not like this ridiculous belief that people still have where women are just trying to get passports to get out of the country because it is such a dire circumstance here for them and their families. Now, I've definitely met a lot of people in Thailand who want to move to Australia, but there are a lot of people who are in Thailand doing this corporate type of work who have no interest in leaving the country with the amount of benefits and the lifestyle that they have. This one's interesting. You are young and naive, mate. Your mindset is going to change once you settle down for family life, buy a house, etc. I'd really like to know the age of this person because that sounds a lot like the concept that a lot of boomers used to throw out with, you make your money in the West and you retire in the East. Yeah, 20, 30 years ago, making your money in the West and retiring in the East was definitely the good idea. But nowadays, it doesn't depend on how much you earn. It depends on how much you save. So even though that the salaries in the West are much higher than they are in Thailand, if you cannot afford to save more in the West than the East, then it's the same situation. This one's hysterical. But in Thailand, you need to work 8 hours, 5 days a week too, or not. What's the difference in feeling then, if it's the same schedule? And then this guy commented, no, in Thailand and probably Vietnam, it is rather 10 to 12 hours, 7 days a week. And then somebody else commented, most work 6 days for little pay and little hope of any worthwhile pay increase, he's talking from a privileged Western viewpoint and doesn't realize that. Oh my God. Okay, so I work 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. That is it. I don't have to do overtime if I don't want to. I never work Saturdays or Sundays, and that's the same for everybody at my company. So I don't know where this 6 or 7 day working week comes from, because that's a load of crap. Yeah, if you're working at a market stall or selling food by the side of the road, yeah, you're probably going to work 7 days a week. But I'm not talking about that type of work. I'm talking about office, corporate type of work here. Now, this fallacy comes up quite a lot, and it often comes up from Asian expats rather than Western expats. And it is, are you earning a white man or a Thai man salary? Now, just to clarify, if you're coming over here as an American or Canadian or Japanese, you have to earn at least 60,000 baht a month. Whereas if you're from the UK, Australia, or New Zealand, you have to earn at least 50,000 baht a month. I've mentioned previously that these are the minimum salaries that you have to earn as a foreigner here, but it's very likely that you will earn more than this. So for example, my Thai wife, she earns 110,000 baht a month, which is roughly 5,000 Australian, I think 3,500 US. She job hops, and everybody knows that the only way to increase your salary consistently over time is by job hopping every 2 or 3 years. There is a huge difference between the amount of money that you can earn staying in the same job for 10 years compared to if you had changed jobs 3 or 4 times during that period. Your salary will either just increase with the CPI or actually underneath it nowadays, whereas if you change your job, your salary is likely to increase 20 to 30% every single time you change jobs. So my wife and her sisters do this all the time, and all 3 of them are on over 100,000 baht a month. And anyone that I know that's earning good money here is doing the same thing. So there's this conflated idea that basically if you talk to people who were doing waitressing or something like that, only earning around about 12,000 baht a month, and then they move overseas for better work, that if they tell people that that was what their salary was, people equate it with the same type of work if you're doing IT work or finance work in Thailand, which is absolutely bullshit. Especially if you're doing it for say a Chinese or American or European company here too. So in regards to these fallacies, it's up to you what you take on board, because it seems like they're just going to constantly persist. One of the main things that I try and do in these situations is ask them their experience. And I noticed that when you seem to ask them their experience, they never reply. Isn't that convenient, little girl? Now, I still believe that you need to question every single thing that you hear, including anything from myself, because even I will display confirmation bias in what I say due to the type of people that I'm associating and hanging out with every single day. But try and rationalize how you interpret that information, because just because something benefits you or it clicks with your bias, it doesn't mean that it's true. So the best thing that I can recommend is to make sure that you just research where the information is coming from, look for validation that it's actually honest or true, and then work from there. I have no financial incentives or gains to put out by making these videos. There's no courses that are about to be sold. I'm not going to be requesting people to call me on consulting calls that are charged at $100 an hour. It's a load of bullshit. Save your money for yourself and your future. This information should be free and accessible to everybody. Thanks for watching, and good luck to anybody who is interested in moving to Thailand for this type of work. See you next time.